Welcome everybody to the Monday Night Tours. I am your guide on this magical journey through the Monday Night Wars, Josh Kaiser, and I am joined today by one Mr. Kyle Hogan. How's it going, buddy?
I'm excited to talk about this one. It's 90s wrestling and it's near a holiday, so you know the holiday is going to be in full force on both shows. So looking forward to it.
Are you really looking forward to it though? I mean, I watched both of these episodes. Of course, we're going to be discussing the October 30th, 1995 editions of Monday Nitro and WWF Raw. And I gotta say, Kyle, before we get too much into it, they felt a little weak to me.
Well, like I said, what I said was I was looking forward to watching. I'm not looking really forward to reviewing this from a standpoint of content. But I will say there were some quirks and kind of funny little things around the Halloween holiday renditions of both shows. But I would definitely say that from a wrestling show standpoint, this one definitely kind of falls a little flat compared to the other ones we've done in the past.
Fair enough. And let's just get into it. We got Monday Nitro, of course, following Halloween Havoc the night before. This was Machine vs. Machine, the Hulkster fighting the Giant for the world title, something that we were, I don't know about you, I was a little surprised to see that was the main event when I tuned to Halloween Havoc because I didn't think there was any promotion for that leading up to this.
I feel like that they really didn't let us know that Hogan and Giant were fighting. I was definitely shocked when they did some sort of sumo truck match. That was weird, and I was looking forward to the Macho Man Luger match. I think that was the one that everyone was talking about.
Absolutely. That said, we are live today from Dayton, Ohio. So they're starting. That's 2 weeks in a row now, Kyle, that the smaller cities are getting some love on Nitro, which is good. Maybe it'll be kind of par for the course going forward.
Well, I feel like Dayton's actually a decent wrestling town. It's actually housed a lot of good wrestling. It's a good wrestling venue in Dayton. So I will say that I think they did that for that reason. That Dayton's kind of like a territory. It's not a well-known territory of wrestling, but it does have some roots to it. So maybe they gave a nod to it because some of the old school wrestlers know that a lot of big time matches did happen in that city.
Well, we'll have to see going forward. And of course, as you alluded to, it's Halloween. So as we go to the commentary booth, you know that Pepe will be dressed up as per usual. And today, poor Pepe is wearing an orange bandana, a witch's hat, and it's got some wings to it. So I'm not sure if it's part bat, vampire, witch, what the case is. But what might be most surprised is Mongo's just wearing black. Of all the days he chose not to dress up, he chose Halloween. So
yeah, I mean, look, really, you're talking about Mongo dressing up. Mongo doesn't dress up. Mongo just wears shitty outfits.
Fair enough.
So I think that's my thoughts on that. Anyway.
Well, he was not wearing a shitty outfit today, just standard black attire. And the commentary booth lets us know that they're going to have footage from Halloween Havoc for any of you who missed it, but they got to wait till it gets there. I'm not sure how
a lot
the
of people were
footage is being
faxing
shipped.
WCW as well. That was the thing that I noticed too. Like that, there's a fax number.
Yeah, so they talk about that. They said, Eric Bischoff mentions, he's like, yeah, people were faxing into the WCW offices to find out what happened. I'm like, who the fuck faxes in to find out answers? I mean, I get at this point, it's early stages of America Online, so not people are accustomed or have a home personal computer to, search the internet for results.
Yet.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I think WCW wrestling has not existed yet.
That's true. But I guess apparently fax machines. So I guess they send a little fax in, hey, let me know what happened with this Hogan Giant match. So they're going to let us know once the footage, wherever it's at, gets shipped to the stadium, the arena they're in. So it's going to take some time, but ittle get there.
As if they couldn't tell you what happened. They were there for the whole damn show. They couldn't tell us anything. And I think it bites them in the ass, personally. I mean, once again, foreshadowing. We'll talk about that later. But, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, that's fine. I was just going to say, in the meantime, though, while you're waiting for that, we've got a great opening match. Craig Pittman going to be wrestling Eddie Guerrero. Of course, Craig Pittman won this the rights to Nitro. Apparently, this is what their weekend shows, the WCW main events, the the WCW Pro. If you win your match on there, you get a shot for a match on Nitro. So Craig Pittman won with the honor to wrestle Macho Man tonight. But, of course, Macho Man, too hurt. He's not here tonight, something that happened at Halloween Havoc, which you'll find out later. So he's replaced by Eddie Guerrero, who apparently didn't have to win a match to get into this Nitro match. Pittman, though, he did beat VK Wall Street, Kyle, which I think pretty much ends the reign of that push that VK Wall Street had, which started the first week of Nitro, September 4th, and ended on September 11th when he jobbed his first week on the show.
Never forget. Once again, never forget.
Never forget. So, Kyle, I got to say, what would you think about this Pittman-Guerrero match?
Now, to put it nicely, Craig Pittman is a stiff wrestler. He's not one that's going to wow you with a lot of crazy, amazing moves. But with that said, I mean, I guess Eddie Guerrero had to kind of steer this train wreck a little bit. Match starts with Pittman kind of goading Eddie into trying to fight him in amateur-style wrestling, which apparently that's what Pittman's good at. That's his Greco-Roman background. Thank you, Bischoff, for educating all of us on any sort of Pittman trivia. Personally, I thought the only thing he knew how to do was running battering rams. I thought that was the only move he knew how to do. And Bischoff at some point during the match alludes to World War III, which is the next pay-per-view that's coming up, which I think that's the War Games.
No. That's Fall Brawl. World War III.
Brawl. I'm sorry.
World War III is the 3-ring Royal Rumble, sort of over the top. The winner getting the world title match at Starrcade.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right, okay, gotcha. But yeah, they made up some point like that the Clintons, that then Bill Clinton was president at the time. They were checking out Halloween Havoc, so you already got the president checking out WCW. Whether that's true or not, I highly doubt.
Couldn't fact check that one for you guys.
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't either. There was no evidence of that. So let's see what else happened in this match. Pittman gets out of the way of an attack in the corner by Eddie, and then it looked like he was trying to roll him up for a pin, but instead he kind of just threw him. It kind of looked like an amateur move, but Eddie looked confused and the ref looked kind of confused, like he was going down to start making like a 3 count, but he just kind of just did a tuck throw that looked like just kind of like a, what did you call it, like a schoolboy,
right?
For a pin, which once again he didn't pin. Just a weird move to see that doesn't follow up with anything else. I've seen people do that move, but then go right into a submission hold or something else afterwards. So obviously this is Pittman. He's garbage. He's not going to do that.
They should call him Craig Shitman, right?
God, this guy right here, he's on fire. Kaiser's on fire. We're not even 15 minutes into this show. So another thing I noticed that Pittman was doing was he was working Eddie Guerrero's arm for really no reason, although I don't know if Pittman's finisher is an arm bar of some sort. I can't remember.
It must be something to that effect, because he did start working it, and they're like, "Oh, he's weakening it for." And I think they alluded to a finisher or something. Yeah, Code Red. That's it.
Yeah, which is personally my favorite flavor of Mountain Dew. But moving on. But either way, I think he was also doing it too because Macho Man may have still had that storyline injured arm, and maybe once again, I for all I know, this match was never going to happen, and we knew that. Or maybe it was just Macho Man was tired or wasn't going to be available. I don't know what the story behind Macho Man not being available for the match, whether that was a legitimate thing.
My guess it was just from the Halloween Havoc where he got his shit beat in, and they just decided to write it in as a reason he's not going to be here. Probably contractually, they're like, you know what, Macho, you don't have to come to Dayton, Ohio after a pay-per-view.
Okay, fair enough. So I think Pittman was going into this match going, all right, I know what I'll do. I'll work the arm. But now he's fighting Eddie Guerrero, who has no arm issues whatsoever. So what does he do? He works the arm a bit. And once again, I've never seen Pittman win with his finisher. I don't know what it is. I can only allude to that maybe it's an arm bar of some sort or an arm move. But anyways, we're talking way too much about Pittman and Code Red. The one thing I was like, holy shit, I had to stop and rewind it because I was like, Pittman actually did this. There was a really nice, kind of snap belly-to-belly suplex. He did it twice in the match, which I actually thought was really good. And I don't know if that's a tribute to Eddie selling it or it was Pittman really putting some strength behind the throw.
A little bit column B there.
Yeah, sure. And Then also we also got an update. The footage for Halloween Havoc has arrived. So they just got to make sure that, once again, this is about 15 minutes into an hour-long show. They have the footage. They just need to get it up in the truck and get it, whatever the hell the wording they said. But they got to get it prepared and to wired up on the truck so that they can show it. What else? Okay, so then the sorry, my window went away. There was a crossbody by Eddie for a 2 count. At this point, this match has been going on for far longer than I wanted to, and thankfully, after I kind of thought that, Eddie reverses a move off the ropes and then rolls Pittman up for like a surprise pin, and the booth loses its mind. They lose their mind as if Pittman is really like this up-and-comer.
This was David versus Goliath right here, and Craig Pittman got upset. I mean, that's basically how they sold this one.
Yeah, so I don't know. Personally, I gave this 1 3/4 stars. I think Eddie did it the best he can with this guy. I think Pittman can do maybe a 2-star match at best, and I think this might have just been a little bit short on it. Eddie definitely carried pretty much all the rating on this.
Yeah, I mean, I put it at 2 stars. It was fine for what it was. I thought it was strange that they gave him the major upset here because I thought Eddie's been booked pretty strong so far. I mean, I guess they think Pittman's a little bit bigger of a person. They're booking Eddie as a small guy. The only other thing I got to add to that is Mongo continues to call the fans stupid. He says, I believe the direct quote was, "You've got more rocks in your head than Bobby Heenan if you don't think this is good wrestling." So, once again, thank you, Mongo.
Personally, this isn't great wrestling, Mongo.
For Mongo, always one to call out the fans. Of course, after that, we've got a recap of September 11th, the Scott Norton Shark, when Shark interfered with the Macho Man match that Scott Norton apparently wasn't pissed off about until last week, which they showed us. Of course, their attack in the locker room. And I alluded to last week, I thought this might be a Halloween Havoc match, but instead, it's going to be happening here tonight on Nitro. So we're getting ready for the match, and they make a comment that Bobby Heenan is not at the commentator's booth, and Mongo makes a joke that maybe he's looking for his Metamucil. So ever the quick-witted Mongo on that. And the match itself, it's the Shark for Scott Norton. I don't know what more I can say about it. Shark actually surprised me. He opened up with a belly-to-belly suplex and a quick elbow drop to follow. And I had to laugh at one point. They referred to Scott Norton as very agile. He came off the top rope and tried to do like a shoulder block kind of clothesline. And I don't know whether Shark was out of place or Norton didn't jump as far as he could have, but it looked like he missed it. It's like when you're in a video game and you sort of glitch out and miss the hit, but the guy falls back anyways. That was sort of the moment you had there.
You ever try to jump and then you feel like you don't spring off like you think you should, and you get like no. I always see it like I watch like basketball bloopers where like a guy who clearly can dunk just doesn't jump off that front foot as well as he thought he did.
Right, doesn't get that right spring there.
It looked like that's what happened with Norton. He was at the top rope, and like you could tell he almost like double took on the top rope where he was gonna jump. And then realized, oh God, Shark is like 3/4 across the ring, but then says, screw it, I'll try it anyways. But his first kind of like pump was like his more powerful, like he probably could have made it. And so the second one was not as good, and he really didn't get off the ground that well.
Yeah, it looked pretty sloppy. Eventually the two double clothesline each other off the ropes. They both fall down. You know, there's that inevitable 10 count, but they don't get to that, thankfully. And then next thing you know, we cut away, and Bobby Heenan is enjoying a nice candlelight dinner with who you and I, Kyle, know, of course, is Sonny Ono. At this point, he's a mystery man. They showed it. I watched Halloween Havoc, and they showed the same thing. Heenan was meeting with this mystery man on WCW Pro the night before, and he kind of played it off like, I've just got business partners, and that was a nobody, don't worry about it. So they show that for a minute, and then they cut back into the match. Shark and Norton are battling on the outside, so next you know, the bell rings, and it's a double countout, which, it wasn't even, like, sometimes they have double countouts where you can tell, like, they're just brawling and they don't want any part of it. This was, like, the weakest double countout ever. You had no idea it was even coming until the bell rang. Eventually they do battle to the stage and throw each other into the WCW stainless steel set. And that's basically the match. For me, it's a 1.5 stars. It was pretty garbage. I guess they're trying to keep this feud going, but it might be 7 more weeks before we get the next match before them. Kyle, anything you want to add, and what would you rate this match?
Maybe I'm being mean. I just got mad because I thought that this match, if it actually had an ending, not a double count out, I actually would have given this somewhat of a decent rating just because it's two pretty powerful guys. There were a couple decent spots. They both were kind of playing the big man versus big man card where, close, like the only way that a guy like Shark could go down is if another big guy comparatively could take him down. So those are always kind of matches that intrigue me when you have a guy that's now at his level of kind of power in the ring. But the double countout's bullshit. I hate that you create some heat and then you can't even settle it in the ring in any way, shape, or form. I really don't remember. And I was watching Nitro and Raw during this time. I don't recall them having a match after this or anything happening after this, which makes this even worse. That this was totally inconsequential. So I give this a 1 star, but I will hold it and change it if they have a second match within the next 2 weeks. Then I'll change the rating. But I'm pretty sure that nothing happens with this after this.
All right, Dave Meltzer holding on his potential star change. So look forward to that, guys. If they do continue booking this match or this feud going forward. After that, they cut back to Bobby Heenan, who has accepted an envelope of what you assume is some sort of cash because he kind of opens it up and looks at it. And him and Sonny Ono toast. So it's interesting to see where this is going to go. If Sonny Ono is going to bring in some stars, what Heenan has to do with it. By the time I started watching, Sonny Ono was kind of a chicken shit heel manager. So we'll see. After that, we cut to the ring, and it's Mean Gene. Nope, it's Tony Schiavone, Kyle. So Tony Schiavone, we're going to get our debut of not on the commentator booth, but he's actually kind of handling he's the stick man for the night, handling Gene's duties, basically.
Gene's duties are basically just talking to Flair.
Pretty much, yeah. Tony discusses, it's actually on the topic of Flair, Tony Schiavone kind of recaps with some still images. So apparently they got the still images over from Halloween Havoc very quickly. It's the footage that's going to take a little bit longer to get. But they have some stills of Flair. Of course, him and Sting were teamed up against Arn and Pillman. Basically, in the match the night before, Sting's getting double teamed for a while, finally gets the hot tag to Flair, and Flair turns around and decks Sting, and he turned heel again, and the 4 horsemen are back. Of course, it's just the 3 of them, and Schiavone calls them out. So out come Arn, Pillman, and Flair. I had to laugh. Flair grabbed one of those foam Hulk Hogan items from the fans, took it into the ring, and stomped on it, which I think some fans are going to be pissed that he just lost his foam Hogan that he probably spent $20 on. Arn gets on the mic and teases that there's going to be soon to be a 4th member of the Horsemen. And Flair says the Horsemen will be in town next week. So Kyle, it'll be interesting to see if we do get that 4th member next week, or how far on the horizon before that happens.
Now remember too that Sting kind of threatened Flair.
He did. He said he'd leave him. That's right. So we've got to keep an eye on that. Two storylines to keep an eye out for. Will Sting commit the murder, and will Shark and Scott Norton continue and settle their differences? So
with that, will they earn extra stars from their current match?
There you go. After that, of course, we get our WCW Saturday Night promo. Chris Benoit is going to be wrestling Alex Wright, who, of course, you remember was on crutches a week ago. Apparently, he is good. Was it last week or was it 2 weeks? They're kind of blending together.
It was last week.
Okay, yeah. So apparently he's all healed from that. Flair and Arn Anderson are teaming up against the Renegade and the Cobra. Of course, you haven't seen either of them on Monday Nitro, and for good reason. And Harlem Heat will be defending their tag team titles against the Blue Bloods. Oh yeah, by the way, the Harlem Heat are the tag team champions.
I love that. I love that they the tag team titles might as well not even be a thing unless your name is Hogan. Nothing matters on this show.
To be fair, they did have a match last week on WCW Saturday Night, and that's where they won them. They did mention that those two were wrestling, so I guess, Kyle, if we were watching Saturday Night, which I think at the time was their premiere show, we would probably know that. But it's funny that at Halloween Havoc, no mention of it was made. Here we are on Nitro, and it's like an afterthought. So to your point, if it's not Hogan in the world title, it means nothing at this point. After that, we're getting ready for Sabu and Disco Inferno. But beforehand, we find out that WCW is having a live interactive Nitro next week, Kyle. So this is going to be a good one for us. You're going to be able, the fans are going to be able to choose the matches, and why not? Because basically the booking is so bizarre and head scratching that you might as well have the fans book it, right?
Well, I think it's only one match, and I gave a smile and a nod to you when I saw on the rundown you said Taboo Tuesday. I thought that was a good one. I thought you were going to add Cyber Sunday.
Oh, Cyber Sunday. I forgot about Cyber Sunday, but yeah.
But yeah, and the thing is, I'm pretty sure it's just, hey, here's a wrestler from the blue corner.
Yeah,
and
they have
the red corner.
Yeah, blue in a red locker room. So
it's not like you could make whatever the hell you want, which I think would be way more.
It was very limited. Yeah, it was very limited on your options. So I'm curious to see who the fans vote for that next week. That said, as we're getting ready to get to this Sabu Disco Inferno match, Kyle, you still appreciate Disco Inferno's entrance?
I do. I love just the little subtle things like the first of all, I've already said this before, his theme music's amazing, and
one of the best in the business, especially at this time.
Right. And then you have when he's already in the ring and he rips his pants off to show off his kind of doughy quiche a bit with his Monday Nitro Fever shorts, or I guess singlet. And then it just kind of fades into, I don't know where this disco ball is located, but there's one somewhere, whether that's stock footage or not. I'm assuming
right?
somewhere, or I'm assuming I would love it if they just had a disco ball somewhere.
That they're filming just for that moment.
Yeah, exactly.
That said, Kyle, there's not a whole lot to talk about with this match. Sabu doing his typical high-flying attacks, kind of jumping off the ropes and, drop kicks and things like that. Disco every once in a while will lay a clothesline and follow it up with dancing. Disco, pretty much, Kyle, here is very green, and his stick is basically, I'm going to dance and get heat from the crowd, and for what little he's doing okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, he can right now he's getting away with how little he knows in the ring,
right?
But once again, you and I being more purists and also we're on the outside looking in, hindsight's 2020. He just doesn't look good, and I know he gets a little bit better. I've seen better matches with Disco Inferno later on in his career.
Yeah.
But right now it's just him just doing some throws, some clotheslines, and then just pandering to the audience in a heel way. But yeah, definitely better. There are better experiences for Disco Inferno down the line.
Oh yeah, Disco would not put this on his resume by any means. But that said, the match will soon come to an end. Sabu does a senton, he does a flip leg drop. That's right, from the apron to the inside of the ring. Gets the 3 count, and then, of course, Sabu, after his match, like normal, he'll shake his hands, wish his opponent good luck in the future, and walk out. And by that, of course, I mean he beats the shit out of him again after the match and brings out a table. And I had to laugh, Kyle, because he, threw the table at Disco Inferno before he did anything else, then lays Disco on it, goes to the apron again, and then does, a senton flip to the outside to knock Disco through the table. Disco moves, and the table no-sells, and it looked like it hurt a little bit.
Yeah, this is what we call in the business the Mexican announce table, because that's the one that never breaks.
Right.
And the thing is, it did crack, but it did not go all the way through.
I think one of them made the comment, was that the table or was that his back? And then I think Bischoff said
a little bit of both or something like that.
For me, Kyle, it was a 1 3/4 star match. Nothing special here.
Yeah, I think I gave it a 1.5, and it was pretty much all once, kind of like the way I did with Eddie. Sabu kind of took care of most of that. I don't know, I feel like I almost wanted to give it an extra. I don't give points to the extracurriculars. If I did, I might have put it a 1 3/4 just for the the attempt at breaking through the table,
Right.
adding a little more hardcore aspect to it. But I kind of stop it as soon as the bell rings. And but yeah, I also had to give a little bit of like a kind of make fun of the fact that during the beatdown, Sabu went from like a springboard Hurricane Rana, and Disco completely screws that up and just falls to the ground. It looked like both of them just spilled out. It looked kind of painful
Disco
from both
fucked
ends.
that up big time. Yeah, and it was weird. Yeah, it looked like it was a Hurricane Rana, and then it turned out he just kind of like almost drop kicked him with his knees because Disco just kind of no-sold it and didn't flip with it. It looked bad.
It almost looked like Disco power bombed him.
Yeah, to some degree, yeah. But thankfully that match is over, Kyle. We're moving to our main event. Of course, we've got the American males who recently just lost their tag team titles, and they're going up against Lex Luger and Ming. Why are they partners? I don't know, but here comes Jimmy Hart with the Taskmaster, so they're all together. They're all friends.
Right. So much of this didn't make any sense. Like Jimmy Hart's coming out with Luger and Ming, and it's like, wait, why is Jimmy Hart with them? Wait, why is Luger with them? Like there were so many questions that they couldn't do what they did with the Flair and Sting thing and show a couple of still video or still things from
let you know what happened and how it happened.
To at least let you know what happened.
Right.
But instead, you got really a very short, hardly explained story even from the announcers.
Yep, they don't really talk about it yet. Before the match starts, though, Kyle, I had to laugh. There's a sign that said the road to Nitro goes through Dayton. I have no idea what the hell that means. I'm familiar with like the road to WrestleMania, and that's like, if there was a bunch of shows like going on leading up to WrestleMania, then it would make sense. Like if you had the road to WrestleMania goes through Dayton and you're in Dayton, like okay, the road to Nitro goes through Dayton. Like you're on Nitro and you're in Dayton. It made no sense to me. Stupid Ohio fans, I guess.
Classic stupid Ohio fans. You know what else didn't make sense? Why are the American males main eventing anything on Nitro? First of all, they don't have the titles anymore, which we just kind of nonchalantly found out about. And like, if they had the titles, I almost would have been like, that's not a bad main event. The tag champions versus Luger and Ming. Now, Luger being the kind of the turncoat, now the new member of the Dungeon of Doom. But because the American males lost, now the American males look like they're not getting a rematch anytime soon. So they're just the American males.
Pretty much.
It just seemed like such a weird match to have, let alone it being the main event.
Well, what did you think of it as a main event?
Honestly, I'm kind of on the, once again, my ratings might be different to yours, but I look at it from, is this a relevant match? Does this match make any sense? I will say that the American males put on a decent enough show in the sense that, like, I was surprised how long that they gave this match. I thought this was going to be a squash match, and it still kind of did end up being that. I think we all knew going in that Luger and Ming were not going to job to the American males.
Right.
But I think they did a pretty good job of keeping Luger kind of mortal in this match, where Luger was definitely struggling with the tag team aspect.
I was a little surprised by that because I thought if anyone, Luger should be the one looking the strongest out of the four, and he was kind of getting teamed up a little bit. Though I will say they did a good job, I thought, on the commentary crew of saying, like, well, the American males have been tag teams for a long time. They know each other's, actions, and they know how to respond and work together well, where Lex Luger and Ming are new to this tag team thing. So I thought that was a good way of trying to sell that and make it more interesting from that standpoint.
Well, the one thing Luger did not sell was a back body drop from Riggs. It looked like Luger wasn't sure what he was doing off the ropes, and then Riggs kind of bends forward like he's going to give him a back body drop, and Luger just kind of walks into him and then just kind of like somersaults over him in a real weird, awkward way.
Right.
And it looked horrible, but then, because I think what happened was, here's what's the problem. Heenan on commentary says, watch this. He told them, like, oh, check this out. And because he was trying to show off like a big point in the match, which was going to be, I guess, Riggs giving this really nice back body drop to Luger. It was totally screwed up, and Bischoff and Heenan both go like, nice, very nice. And I just lost it because I'm like, these are the same two guys that would see a Mr. JL drop kick and nut in their pants. So I was really hoping that they would do the same thing with this, and they totally didn't sell. They're like, nice, very nice, and that was it. And I think the way if I remember correctly, and like I said, my notes are everywhere. I've got things everywhere. I believe the ending of the match really comes down to Ming comes in during a distraction from Jimmy Hart, kicks both awkwardly the American males in like the back of the head. One of them careens out of the ring. The other one's knocked out in the ring, and Luger puts on the torture rack
yep.
and gets the win. I believe that's how it is. And for
correct.
me, I would have given this 2 stars if they at least created the proper dialogue for this match. I'm pretty convinced that many people still had no idea why Luger was even there, or worse, why the American males were there main eventing a Nitro. The match I thought was okay, but once again, there was a couple bad spots, and it was just so damn confusing, and no one really seemed into it, including the commentary. I think they were too busy talking about like how shitty of a person Luger and Jimmy Hart was more than actually calling the match. And once again, it's story building. I get it. You got to talk about it a little bit, but this was a completely inconsequential match other than just showing, hey, look, here's Luger in action with his new buddies. So I gave it a 1 3/4 star rating.
Yeah, I gave it 2 1/4. Pretty much agree. At this point, Kyle, I think we could play a drinking game when someone on commentary says that they've never seen wrestler X manhandled in such a way. But I thought them commenting on, American males having the teamwork experience was enough to sell me on why the match was going the way it was. But I do agree that they really didn't give you much heads up on why Ming and Luger were tag teaming. Just real quick before we move on, Ming does like a senton in the middle of the match, which
I was
totally shocked
and I
me.
knew it was going to miss. You ever see like someone do it looks like a high risk move that with a guy who never does it? They almost always miss it.
Right.
You ever see like Big Show doing like an elbow drop off the top rope? He does like the Vader bomb. Every once in a while he'll try doing it, and every time you're like, he's going to miss this.
Right.
And he does every time. And that's what I thought the moment I saw Ming try something different.
Absolutely. After the match, we go back to the commentary booth, and Pepe is asking, is trick-or-treating? So Bischoff gives him a treat. Heenan does not. So what does Mongo do? He pulls out silly string and shoots all kinds of silly string all over Bobby Heenan. I got to be honest, Bobby Heenan has got to be paid a ton of money to put up with Mongo's bullshit at this point.
I also had to appreciate Bischoff being the company man and saying, "Well, all right, I'll go ahead and do it since this candy is brought to you by Milky Way."
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I like that, Bischoff.
Finally, Kyle, we get the footage. It's set up. It's here on the truck. It's ready to roll, and they show it where Jimmy Hart, of course, turns heel on Hogan during the match last night. Luger eventually comes down with Macho Man, attacks Macho Man. So you got Jimmy Hart and Lex Luger have joined the Dungeon of Doom. And that said, we cut to Tony Schiavone. He is with the entire Dungeon of Doom in the ring. The Giant's there. He's wearing the world title. Mind you, he lost the night before. I think he may have technically won by disqualification. I forget who got DQ'd. But either way, he did not win the title, but he's wearing the title. And he says, I will defend the title next week against anybody, including Hogan, which doesn't make any sense because he doesn't own the title to defend. At this point, Kyle, he has stolen multiple of Hogan's catchphrases, and now he's stolen his title. I think he is just becoming the future Hogan. Taskmaster gets on the mic, tells everyone that he tried to warn everyone that this was going to happen. Jimmy Hart runs a bunch of laps around everyone in the ring, like a lot of laps. It was very strange. What were your final thoughts on the Nitro show as a whole, though, Kyle?
First of all, I believe the official result of that match was Hogan lost by DQ because Jimmy Hart hit the ref, which once again doesn't make any sense because that's never been the DQ reason for anything because the ref is knocked out, so he can't call the DQ. But anyways, I don't know. Like, I mean, I had really no problem with the ending of the show being this. I did think that Taskmaster was being a little bit, I don't know. No, it wasn't Sullivan. It was Jimmy Hart was running around like he was on speed, and I think Luger then gets to talk towards the end, but he has a really shitty, like, once again, Luger talks like 2 lines, they don't make sense, and then we move on. And also, everyone loves saying Tony Schiavone's name. Every time Tony Schiavone asks a question, they're like, you know something, Tony Schiavone? Like, they are a big fan of saying his whole name. I don't know, just once again, something I wanted to bring up. And then he throws some shade at Luger. I'm sorry, Luger throws some shade at Hogan. And that's really about it. Giant says he'll defend the belt against anybody, which technically is illegal. It's not really his belt, like you already said. But I don't know. Like, it's a weird way for the show to end.
Well, what do you think about the show in general?
I thought this was even worse than last week, and I said how bad last week's was. All the matches were overall, I think, duds. No one wanted to discuss anything that happened on Halloween Havoc, which is really important because it's a story. I understand that you don't give spoilers because you had to make sure that people got what they paid for, but you can't. Even in the time before internet happens, you got to at least, if you're going to move forward with the storyline on the show, such as Luger being in the main event, you got to bring some sort of dialogue that explains, okay, Luger is now part of the Dungeon of Doom. Don't do that after the match.
Right.
So there was no cohesion at all, and there was hardly anything worth to take home regarding the show. I really could care less about the show.
Yeah, I agree. Matches were pretty much garbage. If you didn't watch Halloween Havoc, you're probably in the dark for most of the show. The only thing I will say, Kyle, is we kind of laughed when we first started watching because it was right around the War Games with Team Hulkamania versus the Dungeon of Doom. And the Dungeon of Doom had been pretty much jobbers for the most part. You know, you have, other than Ming, it was kind of Shark and Zodiac, and it was, you know, they had Kamala in there.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah. It was a lot of nothing, but now you've got the Giant, who's the biggest heel, the strongest foe on the roster. I mean, he fell off a roof and continued to fight his match against Hogan. Now you have Luger and you have Jimmy Hart who've turned their back on Hogan. I got to be honest, the Dungeon of Doom has now been booked as a pretty formidable heel stable, so I'll give them props there. But outside of that, that's really not pertaining to this episode of Nitro. Just something I wanted to add. Overall, not a great Nitro. So hopefully, Kyle, we can, as we move into Raw here now, we can be saved for the week. And the show opens up with Todd Pettengill doing a spooky Dracula voice as he recaps what happened with the 20-man Battle Royal and hyping up Goldust's debut match. So I already know that it's going to be a shit show from here on out. And we open right up, and we've got Vince McMahon, who's wearing a Party City $5 convict striped costume, and Jerry Lawler's wearing a surgeon costume of pretty much similar quality. And it doesn't get much better than that until they show the Spanish announcers table, and you've got the Spanish announcers are dressed as a devil and a vampire. So
they
full
had
Halloween
better outfits.
Effect.
They had better outfits.
They did
overall.
have better outfits.
Can I just say one thing real quick? I like the way Raw starts shows. They at least tell you, like, hey, this is what happened
a little
last
heads
week.
up on stuff.
And a lot of the things that we talk about right now is going to be relevant to the matches coming up. And that's what Nitro needs to do. They need to stop thinking that they need to hold on to these nuggets of information and tell people, hey, if you really want to know what happened, you can still, order the replay of Halloween Havoc. It's almost like they got to wait until all the pay-per-view money has been squeezed dry before they'll even talk about what happened at Halloween Havoc.
Right. Or maybe it's a way for them to try to get the fans to hold on to the end so you know what's going on, but I think it was silly. That said, Kyle, we do get Savio Vega and Goldust opening up this Raw. Lawler makes a comment when Goldust is coming out that his theme song sounds so much like Goldust's favorite movie, Halloween. I got to be honest, I've never thought the Halloween theme song sounds anything like Goldust's theme song. But Lawler just making comments, I guess. I will say the Goldust theme is one of, if not the best wrestling theme music in the history of wrestling theme music.
Although I hate this one. I hate this version. Once again, this is Goldust at the very beginning, where I think that I don't think they're fully invested in his character yet. I think he's kind of getting the Avatar treatment, except obviously a little bit more than that.
Well, he got some better than that. He had the vignettes and stuff. Yeah,
But once again, I don't know if you noticed this, but like when he's in the ring, they just loop the same part of his theme music. It's not the full version that you and I are used to.
No,
so
I
don't think they haven't given Goldust the golden treatment just yet.
There you go. That said, the theme must have caught Savio Vega off guard because they gave him quite an entrance, and Vega is attacked by Goldust because he's lost in all the hoopla of the music and the lights and the gold specks floating down from the sky. So Goldust immediately starts out on the attack, and
they ring the bell.
Yeah,
God
they do.
damn it, WWF.
These refs, they don't play around, Kyle.
It wasn't the ref. I actually played this a couple of times. Earl Hebner never once pointed.
Oh, he doesn't point. Okay.
Timekeeper's fault. Timekeeper's fault. This one.
All right, we'll blame the timekeeper on that one. And I got to be honest. Apparently, Goldust being bizarre and having to do with Hollywood is all the commentators needed to know because that's all they talk about. Lawler throws out like 700 different horror movies that he lists. And I don't know by the end of it whether I'm more irritated that hearing the word bizarre or the next Hollywood or movie or whatever pun or movie-related name. But
yeah, my note said drinking game. Drink every time Vince or Lawler says the word bizarre or mentions Hollywood.
Pretty much. They do have 4 fans, though, super fans in the crowd who've already painted their face like Goldust, so he must be getting over quite early in his career here.
I feel like they actually looked better than Goldust did.
Probably, yeah. At one point, Vince asks what kind of doctor Lawler is, and Lawler says a proctologist, which Vince immediately quips back and says, "Oh, I see you started at the bottom and stayed there," which got me to crack up. I was like, if they didn't rehearse that, Vince was all over it.
I feel like knowing Vince and how I think he's very much to the book. I think they had that joke in the pocket.
It could have been. Either way, well done. Goldust, of course, is referred to as a masculine RuPaul, so Vince really pushing this whole androgynous, bizarre character that is Goldust.
Now they're making you say bizarre.
I know, right? There's not much to say about this match in the whole. It wasn't all that, Goldust is going to have much better matches in the future. Savio Vega had the crowd behind him, but really, other than that, the match was just kind of stale. But the ending was bizarre, if I might say. He kicks Savio Vega off the rope. Vega falls down. He grabs him in sort of an armbar and then pins his arm down underneath his back and cradles him for a 3 count. That might have been the most interesting pin, and I don't think we will ever see that again, unless that, going forward is Goldust's pinning move. I don't think it is, but that's what he did, Kyle. And for that, I gave it 2.25 stars because just that was a bizarre ending.
And that's also crazy because I was going to give this a 1 3/4. I gave it 2 because of the pin. I would have given it also the 2.25 if Goldust actually finished him off with an actual move, and
something
that was
other than
a
kick.
Yeah. It was like I said, I would have loved to see Goldust showcase a new move or at least a finisher, because that's once again, this is the 90s. People love seeing the trademark moves,
and I think he did his trademark move at In Your House like the week before.
I think he did too.
But for whatever reason, this was weird. But that's what happens when you have the bizarre one in the ring, right?
Yeah, and you can tell too that Dustin Runnels or Goldust, he's still far from where he ends up being. Not a terrible debut on television. I thought the match was okay.
I think he still did a lot of good wrestling in WCW, but I think this just wasn't a good way to showcase him from that standpoint. But there was more the glitz and the glamour of the entrance and the character than it was his in-ring performance here.
Also, did you also notice that he was not wearing any type of protection or anything near his junk area?
I did notice that.
Dustin Zwiener was freelancing that entire time. And once again, I'm not trying to disclose what my sexual preference is at all, but I had a hard time focusing on the match when every time they did like a front shot of Goldust.
I think Goldust had a hard time during the match, right?
I get it. It's
an erection joke. And with that, we'll move on to Doc Hendricks painted in pumpkin face, because why the hell not?
I paused that and walked away. Just how stupid that was.
That may
be wearing fangs.
That may have to be our image for the episode.
It is. It's him in pumpkin makeup with Dracula fangs, and also with an outfit like he's ready to get you in a newer used vehicle today.
He really is. Every week he just, oh god, he's slowly becoming my favorite part of the of Raw at this point. And he's here, Kyle, to discuss some additional stipulations to the In Your House. No, I take that back. The Survivor Series main event world title match with Bret Hart and Diesel. This is straight from Gorilla Monsoon, of course, Kyle. Diesel and Hart is going to have a finish, which is good to hear. The first stipulation, there is no count out, so we can wipe that off our list of worries. More importantly, Kyle, there is no disqualification. Anything can happen in this match. But last and most importantly, Kyle, and this is where it's key, there is no time limit. So Doc Hendricks
I feel
dropping
like
the hammer on that.
I feel like they could just said this is a no disqualification match, and I think the rest of that would have just made sense.
But the fact that he said no time, I cracked up because he sold that like it was the biggest thing.
Oh yeah.
And they immediately followed up. They say there's a disturbance going on in the back, and they show 1-2-3 Kid and Razor. I think they're about to say one word, and we got to commercial.
They said, we need to go to they were way too late. Razor's mad about something, and 1-2-3 Kid's trying to console him. I only think I can assume that involved Owen Hart, but we have no idea what the hell happened. Idea. That was a total waste of time. Let's go to break.
So, okay, they went to commercial. They're going to come back and settle that, right? They come back, and it's Barry Horowitz and Hakushi doing Karate Fighters. So, of course, Karate Fighters, the sponsor of Survivor Series. We got a quick commercial in here as Horowitz and Hakushi are doing their little Karate Fighter fighting action. And Horowitz continues his win streak, Kyle, as he beats Hakushi in Karate Fighters, which seems kind of embarrassing on so many levels.
And then to make it worse, Hava Nagila was playing in the background.
Yeah. But we followed up, Kyle, with our second match of the night. We got Marty Jannetty versus everybody's favorite jobber, Joe Dorgan. Glad to see him. I'm starting now, Kyle, to recognize the jobbers of WWF. I don't know what that's to say. Joe Dorgan.
I'm surprised that you remember Joe Dorgan and his. I think he was the guy that jobbed to Dean Douglas when HBK was on the phone, and we never even really saw any offense.
That's why I know him now, because of that not knowing him then. He's Joe Dorgan has now had more visible time on the Monday Night Wars than VK Wall Street. So keep that in mind. Literally, Kyle, we're not even going to break this match down because they didn't break this match down. Poor Joe Dorgan does not get match breakdowns. They discussed that next week Marty Jannetty's going to wrestle the British Bulldog, which, of course, the fact that Jannetty's already being booked for next week does not bode well for Mr. Dorgan's chances in this match. And they also mentioned that Jerry Lawler and Isaac Yankem will be teaming up against Bret Hart and Hakushi. So that's what we've got to look forward to next week. And at some point, Marty Jannetty wins with a top rope, fist drop. I'm going to give this a 1 3/4 star. I don't really have any other reason than I just arbitrarily picked that star count because it is what it is. Anything you want to add to that, Kyle, in your rating?
I thought it was kind of a weird squash match because Jannetty was using confusing moves, and I know we didn't really break this down, but he's doing monkey flips and chin locks. Chin locks are usually not what the person who's doing the squash does. Doesn't ground and pound in a squash match. That's usually reserved for the other wrestler. But yeah, he wins with a flying fist drop. It didn't look all that great either. I think the camera kind of moved away to the other side because I think if they probably showed it from the other direction, it would probably show Jannetty completely missing by a mile. And I also gave this 1 3/4 stars.
The only thing I could think of is maybe Jannetty's getting in British Bulldog's head for next week, throwing some chin locks in there. So when Bulldog goes to review the tape, he might think, these are moves I don't normally see out of Marty, so I'm not sure what to expect next week.
Sure, we'll go with that.
After that, of course, they've got some promos they show you of the matches that were just mentioned. And then we've got Vince McMahon still in convict outfit in the ring with Jim Cornette and British Bulldog. Cornette is just fantastic on the mic, Kyle, and he continues to go here. He starts discussing about how Bret Hart was supposed to wrestle the winner of Diesel and Bulldog match from In Your House, and instead he's wrestling Diesel because, of course, British Bulldog actually won that match due to disqualification, and Vince is saying, well, I think it was understood that Monsoon meant the champion. Well, Clarence Mason's here, and he's writing some writs and reading some writs and writing some writs, and he's going to make
those some well-written writs. So
they are some well-written writs. But really, I thought Clarence Mason and Jim Cornette did a great job here selling this, and I kind of appreciate it, Kyle, because that is sort of just one of those things that you assume it's the champion that Hart's wrestling, but they didn't say that. And for Cornette, that's just great heel work to not let that bullshit slide. So I like that. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere or not, but I do.
Well, it could because Clarence Mason right now is batting 1,000 with getting things overturned.
He is, and
so
I agree.
We'll see.
He's a hell of a lawyer for.
Also, do you think Clarence Mason exists if it wasn't for the OJ trial? They're like, hey, let's hire a young guy to be an attorney.
I doubt it. It's the same thing like Jackie, whatever his name is in Seinfeld, who does this similar OJ thing with Kramer. He's Kramer's lawyer. But they do. Mason also said he's going to investigate the legalities of the putting heels and faces together at Survivor Series, so maybe that'll get overturned as well. And then he mentions that Marty Jannetty wrestling Bulldog next week makes no sense, and I got to be honest, I agree completely. But then they get Bulldog on the mic. He cuts a promo on Marty Jannetty. And
also, shout out to Bulldog for stopping flexing for 30 seconds. That's all he was doing in the ring until he finally got to speak.
Jannetty comes in, clears house, kept threatening to hit Mason. Mason, of course, threatening to sue him if he gets touched. And that's about it for that segment. And then, Kyle, we move on to our next match of the night. Another squash match as we got the Smoking Guns versus Otis Apollo and Scott D'Amore. See,
that's what's weird. I don't know where. I think this is wrong. That's Phil Apollo. That's his actual name. I've looked it up. There's no Otis Apollo. I know that Vince says Otis, and I know that WWE Network says Otis Apollo.
Right.
But I think that I don't know if Otis is like a joke thing with Vince, and then WWE Network just went with it. But his actual wrestler name is Phil Apollo, and there's no Otis. And
maybe Vince wanted to call him Otis for his, in case they kept him, as like his trademark, and it never worked out, and he never wrestled again under that name. I don't know.
It could be, but I will say, because both these jobbers have wiki pages, so I had to make sure I did my Mike Tenay
your homework
research on both these guys.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And Scott's actually, I know who Scott D'Amore is because he's actually a prolific guy in the wrestling world.
Yep.
He's more known for being kind of a driving force, joke intended, for Global Force Wrestling, which also was the merged company for Impact Wrestling, or TNA. He worked a lot with Jeff Jarrett.
Yep. No, I know that name a lot. I hear it a lot on some podcasts I listen to, but yep, you're correct on that. So this match, of course, there's not much to say about the match itself. It's interrupted early on as 1-2-3 Kid is going to apologize for being a poor sport. Razor Ramon and him, of course, had the tag title match at In Your House. Razor had the match, what you thought was won. Kid wanted to make the pin for the 3 count. So Razor lets him go to make the pin. Of course, it gets reversed, and he gets cradled up for a 3 count. He gets pissed and attacks Smoking Guns after the match. So he's apologizing for that, and then immediately demands a rematch against him, which I feel like is a bitch move, and I don't really understand it. It sort of seemed like a half-assed apology now. But I don't know if that's intended or not, but I kind of get the feeling that 1-2-3 Kid's in this like tweener, gonna be heel eventually sort of mode, but we'll see. Not much to say. They do the Sidewinder, of course, to win the match, the Smoking Guns, that is. And Billy Gunn has no mustache and no mullet anymore, so he's pretty much shedding everything that made him a smoking gun. But I still think he's a smoking gun for at least quite a while still. I give this.
I think so. At least a year and a half, 2 more years.
Right. Yeah. I give this 1.5 stars. Kyle, anything you want to add in your rating?
Shockingly, I gave this a higher rating than you. Usually the nicer guy. I give this a 1 3/4 star squash match. I said nothing to write home to. Like I said, I don't think anyone really screwed up anything. There was a couple weird drop toe holds that I think weren't sold very, very well. But other than that, I think this was an entertaining enough match. And I think the Smoking Guns themselves makes this kind of a fun match. They pander to the crowd. They keep the energy. They're kind of like Marty Jannetty. They kind of keep the energy going, kind of get you pumped into the match. You definitely weren't there to watch Scott D'Amore or Otis Apollo. But I gave it at least just enough to be just under that your bland 2-star rating. But I'm also getting a little bit concerned with now we have 2 straight squash matches on Raw, and it's really starting to putter out again.
I agree completely. They do follow the matchup, though, with a Bret Hart promo. He's discussing how he never cleanly lost at Royal Rumble in his world title match with Diesel, and he hasn't had a world title shot since. I couldn't remember what happened at Rumble 95, so I looked it up. It was basically total chaos in the match. Owen Hart, Rhodey was interfered, Shawn Michaels. They all kind of interfered, and at different points during the match, the ref sort of kept the match going. Eventually, he threw the entire match out and considered it a draw, and that's the last time Bret Hart has wrestled for the world title until now. Bret Hart, of course, does say he respects Diesel a lot, but at Survivor Series, he's going to give it to him. It was a typical babyface cutting a promo on a babyface. I respect you, but, look out. And eventually, he does end it with, this big boy is about to meet the truck stop. So, fighting words from Bret Hart. After that, we've got a WrestleMania the Arcade Game advertisement. And then we've got the main event, Kyle, the Intercontinental title match. Owen Hart, of course, winning the 20-man over-the-top Battle Royal the week before, going against Razor Ramon. But right beforehand, let's sell some shitty foam title belts.
And they spoke like these were legitimate belts.
They kept saying,
and that's what guy got me mad about it.
They're like, oh, we got a world title and the Intercontinental title. Do they look anything like the Intercontinental and world titles to you?
Well, they made it sound like the only way you could get these authentic belts would be like if you were at the venues. But now if you call them, like, these aren't authentic anything. These are garbage Kmart belts. And that's almost like an insult to Kmart belts.
Right, absolutely. But on the flip side or plus side, Kyle, they are going to throw in some exclusive 8x10 photos of your favorite champions.
One of which being in color, it looked like, and the other two are black and white.
After this, we get a pallbearer who's standing in a cemetery because it makes sense. It's Halloween. Why not? And he says the Undertaker's coming back. He's still got a crushed face. And if you want to talk to him, he'll be on AOL tomorrow night. Pallbearer, that is, so you can discuss the Undertaker.
First I thought you were just going to say Undertaker would be on AOL.
No. And then they do mention that Shawn Michaels is returning to action this Friday in Cincinnati, which Lawler quips, I hope he has better luck than the Bengals. All I got to say is the Bengals in 95 finished 7-9, so the season wasn't all that bad.
Well, once again, we're talking from a two diehard Browns fans perspective. 7-9. Okay. I think we would back then and now would probably kill for a 7-9 season.
Well, 95 was a rough year.
95 they were actually pretty good.
Well, no, yeah. that was the final year. That's when they finished.
But wasn't the year before? Wasn't the year before they were almost a wild card?
Yeah, in 95, people were thought they had a good shot at a Super Bowl run, and then of course all the news came out that Modell was moving them, and it all fell apart after that. But right. I digress. Kyle, how'd you think about your boy Razor in this match with Owen Hart?
First of all, I never thought that the purple and gold Razor outfit, I think that's the best one. I honestly think that color scheme with Razor is the best of all of them. So I was glad that he was wearing that in his title defense. But I think this is a very classic heel versus face. Owen cheats a bunch, doing a lot of raking of the eyes, doing some choking on the ropes. Once again, just your classic heel shit you do. Anytime that Owen tried to make a comeback, Razor would lay him out with some move. I think he hit him with the fallaway slam, which I always thought that was like the precursor to his finisher, but it seems like he's just doing it whenever he wants to do it. Then you get Yokozuna and Jim Cornette coming down to the ring, and I guess Cornette is crying about some eye injury that Razor Ramon did to Owen, and that's why he came down, because he thought he saw something in the back that he wasn't a fan of, which I thought was pretty hilarious. We go to a commercial break, which, by the way, is also going to be a running gag of this particular match. Way too many of them, and that's one thing that WWF had just egregiously does, is go to break when I'm like, this is the last time this is not when you want to take a break. But yeah, we take a break, return. Razor's still working on that arm. Owen throws him over throws him off over the ropes to kind of take over. Owen did a nice missile dropkick for a 2 count. Razor tries to do a quick little comeback, but gets a neck breaker followed by an elbow drop, which actually looked really good. Good height off the top rope. Another 2 count. So this is now starting to look like the face getting beat up a bunch until he makes that final surge towards the end. We then go to break again after the elbow drop. After a very close 2 count, you would think, okay, no, stay on the action. No, we go there. We talk about how WWF is going to be at Bowling Green at the E8 Diddle Arena.
Dude, that was my favorite part of the entire match, because it was so fucking like, what are they thinking? Like, You cut to commercial during this high-intense Intercontinental title match, and you cut back to a commercial advertising where future shows are going to be on the tour de force.
Well, the thing I have a problem with it too is that this is a obviously it's a pre-produced show, so you can go to commercial.
You can control your commercial breaks.
Well, it's not just that. You can control when you go back to the actual the wrestling. So even right after the elbow drop and the 2 count, you can stop to go to commercial and then go back and pick up exactly where you left off. But instead, you do continue on without talking about what happened. They'll do a replay, and I guess Owen put Razor in a sleeper or something, and then Razor, gets out of it and kind of escapes. But in the end, Razor Ramon makes a comeback like we thought he would. Does a middle rope backdrop suplex, and then we take another break out of nowhere, and then we come back. And this is what I hated about this. We come back, and Razor's got Owen up for the Razor's Edge.
Yeah,
it's already about to happen. And Yokozuna comes in and pulls him down, and it's a DQ. 1, 2, 3 comes in to try to save the day. He gets wasted. And then you get Ahmed Johnson, which nobody has seen wrestle yet. No one gives a shit about. In fact, when he ran down to the ring, nobody gave a shit except for Vince, who was like, wait a minute, what's that? And everyone's like, who the fuck is this guy in red shorts? And Ahmed Johnson body slams the shit out of Yokozuna it wasn't anything, and which I thought was pretty, was pretty cool. Crowd loved it. Vince wet his pants, and that was pretty much kind of the end of the match. I don't know. I really don't know what to rate this because I'm kind of I'm a Razor Ramon mark. I would probably give this a 2.5, but I hate the ending, and I also hated the fact that the pacing was killed by commercial breaks. And this could have easily been a decent 2 3/4 star match if it wasn't for those two things.
Yeah, I gave it 2.5 stars. I thought the match was okay, solid in general. A lot of heel work from Owen really makes me appreciate the old school heel way of wrestling. But at the end of the day, two talented guys putting on a talented match, but the ending was shit. I just did not like the way it ended. I'm guessing that because Owen and Razor and Yoko are all going to be on the same side in the Survivor Series match, that they're trying to push some of that, but it didn't really come across all that well. 2.5 stars, like I said, could have been a lot better. 1, 2, 3 Kid, of course, coming out for that save, but he gets his face crushed as well. And as you said, Ahmed Johnson slamming it in. Bulldog came in, and they ran out of time, and that was our show, Kyle. So, final thoughts on Raw, and who won the battle this week?
Well, really, what shit show was less shitty? My overall thoughts on Raw was too many squash matches, put one in between, put a filler one. I'm glad that they're at least putting a decent match to start off, because you have to, because it's, you're going head to head with Nitro, so you want to at least make sure you're drawing your fans in to watch your show at the start, and then hopefully they don't switch from back and forth, which I think is what pure wrestling fans are doing anyways. They're just going back and forth to see what's more interesting between the two shows. I think if it wasn't for the Intercontinental title match, I think that Nitro might have been able to barely get out of the way of it, but there were way too many just stupid production mistakes. And the thing is, it's not even that they're mistakes. These were decisions made, and that I think that they just didn't make any sense. Overall, I would give this to Raw, but that is not, that to me this week, that's not a big prize to have as far as who got the best show of the week.
Yeah, I agree completely, basically what you said. I'll give it to Raw, but it's not saying much. It was like, which turd looked shinier this week? Too many squash matches, and just not enough going on. I'm just hoping for a better time next week. That said, the Nielsen ratings, Nitro 2.3, down from a 2.6. So the streak of post pay-per-view television shows dropping in ratings from the week before continues, Kyle. And Raw was a 2.1, which was down from a 2.2. So really the lowest I think both shows have been in some time. cumulatively. So interesting to see if they bounce back next week or if this is sort of where we're going to sit for a period of time. I guess Nitro won, but not by much, and not in yours or mine opinions by any means.
Yeah, it's nothing to take home or be proud of.
All right. That said, that's gonna be the show this week. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go follow us on iTunes. We're on Google Play. You can go to MondayNightTours.com, find us there, find our listing of shows there, as well as follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We like to put some stuff out on there. We'd love to hear your feedback. What you think about the show? What do you think about the episodes? And tune in next week as we do the next breakdown of the Monday Night Wars. We're going to talk the November 7th, 1995 episodes of Nitro and Raw. Of course, I think we'll probably get Hogan's response of what's happened so far at Havoc. And on the Raw side, we know we've got that tag match with Lawler and Isaac Yankem, as well as British Bulldog and Marty Jannetty, Kyle. So a lot going on next week. And for Kyle Hogan, I'm Josh Kaiser, and we will see you guys next time on the Monday Night Tours.
Have a good Tuesday. See ya.